let's bring it back home to today's top story, where we are looking into what the heck is going on with Thomas Matthew Crooks, and why is the FBI lying to us about all of it? I mean, that last question is much more easily answered. It's because they suck.
Is that the answer?
They're not lying. They're just preemptively protecting the purity of information. I don't know.
You can't handle the truth.
I still have questions.
All right. So, new revelations about Thomas Matthew Crooks, the 20-year-old who attempted to assassinate President Donald Trump at a July 13, 2024 campaign rally in Butler, Pennsylvania, have reignited controversy over federal transparency surrounding the case. New investigations by the New York Post and a 35-minute video released by Tucker Carlson present what both sides claim is Crooks' extensive hidden digital history, contradicting early FBI statements suggesting that investigators had found little online presence pointing to a motive or ideology. The FBI strongly disputes accusations of dishonesty, saying the Bureau never asserted Crooks had no online footprint, and they insist that the shooter acted alone. Here's what Tucker Carlson put out on November 13th. The FBI told us that Thomas Crooks tried to kill Donald Trump last summer, but somehow had no online footprint. The FBI lied, and we can prove it because we have his post. The question is why? And he promises the story tomorrow and drops this video. If you haven't seen the video, I highly recommend you go watch it. Some fascinating journalism he does there.
I'd say the 95% of it is what was known, is known to people who were paying attention. There's a 5%, the additional video of Thomas Crooks and some of the posts, which is new, and it confirms what we already knew.
And Miranda Devine from the New York Post also did some investigation. I believe a few other online journalists have gone and looked at these claims, assessed the validity of the posts and everything that Thomas Crooks made. All seems to check out. So if the FBI is saying that this guy had little to no online footprint, that's a little weird.
I don't know if you have it as one of the slides. Oh, you do have it right there. Booyah.
So this was the response from the FBI Rapid Response X account. This FBI has never said Thomas Crooks had no online footprint, ever. What's very interesting is that the FBI created this Twitter account the same day. They made this account specifically for the purpose of responding to Tucker's claims about their investigation.
No way.
It was wild. I thought it was a parody. At first. I don't know if people are looking at it. Bring it up just one more time because it's interesting. Not to say that I was once a lawyer for 13 years. I can think like a dirty, rotten scoundrel, or at least semantically, this FBI has never said it. That's true. This current FBI has never said it. Abate from the former FBI sure as hell said it. Bongino, relying on that information back in the day when he was testifying before Congress, I think he was taking answers from, giving answers to Chip Roy, sure as hell said, yeah, we're being told that this guy's got no online presence, and nobody believes it. I think Bongino at the time said, like, if he was a 65-year-old man, I could believe that he had less of a social media footprint. Yeah. A kid who's, living in the age of the internet, it's implausible. And so this FBI never said, okay, fine, but it got fact-checked quickly.
It got the community note, like you said, talking about how FBI Deputy Director Paul Abate disclosed a social media account believed to be associated with the shooter, but he went on to describe a general absence of other information to date from social media.
I want to believe that I was once a community notes dude, but it's politics there that makes it a wasteful time, but I'd like to think they picked on my tweet.
I just wonder, is the FBI that naive that because the internet can figure anything out very quickly, far faster than the FBI. You have a much bigger workforce on the internet.
That is the $1,000,000 question. And I know Dan Bongino. I like him, and I do trust him. And I still have been saying it for a while. Like, I believe he's sort of like a peacock that wants to fly that is being hand-tied by superiors. There's also a possibility they're so stuck in their silo that they just don't appreciate. They think, okay, yeah, if we say it, they'll believe us because they trust us and they like us. We've known some of them for a long time. The internet will figure it out. There's no point in lying in life. And whether or not it's a lie, where they're going to say, well, it's true, this FBI never said it. It's deceptive in its phrasing. And it also gaslights the public who remembers it. We were paying attention to it. The current deputy director at the time was saying we don't believe it. Why the hell has there not been full transparency under this FBI?
And then we'll continue with the Thomas Crooks stuff in a minute, but like the way the FBI, particularly the Trump FBI, has spent the last 11 months burning through every shred of credibility they could have possibly had. Not the least of which is the whole thing with Kash Patel and his girlfriend right now, and for all I know, we're going to get sued for even talking about it. But Alexis Wilkins, the girlfriend of Director of the FBI, Kash Patel, is now suing right-wing podcasters for alleging that she's a Mossad honeypot.
What's his name? Kyle Seraphin.
Elijah Schaefer.
And Sam Parker thus far.
Thus far, because they're probably going to continue with that. Patel's own network of lawyers is involved in this case, which opens up the director of the FBI to discovery, where he might have to submit texts that he exchanged with his girlfriend. It might be on its face an absurd claim to try to say that this girl who has apparently never even been to Israel is secretly a Mossad agent manipulating government events. But the fact that they're spending their time suing podcasters and firing people who report on where Kash Patel takes a government-funded jet, instead of, investigating the guy who tried to shoot the president in the head.
Yeah, it's just why even give it energy? Because that seems to be the thing that gives things power nowadays, is if you put your energy or focus towards something and nobody's putting their focus. I remember, I made a list of all the things from the Crooks assassination attempt. That how did he get in with a rangefinder? All these crazy things.
How did he fly the drone at the same moment when they didn't have drone surveillance because they were on the phone with DJI?
Yes,
how was he
it was jammed at exactly that
How was
time.
he on the building where the cops were staged for security?
Yeah, I have a whole
perimeter.
list of things, and I was going crazy about this after it happened for 2-3 weeks, and I'm like, something's going to happen. Same thing happened with the FISA abuse case, right? Tulsi Gabbard came out and said, we have FBI personnel who are testifying that Obama was involved in this whole plot. Nobody seems to care about anything anymore. There's no standards. It's like you have the craziest story come out that 10, 15 years ago would have turned the country upside down. And now it's no, just on to the next thing. Nobody cares about this.
Well, bring it back to what's her face, Alexis Wilkins. And just to say, I don't think she's a honeypot. It's a stupid theory because it's based on stupid facts. The connection is that she created content for PragerU. Marissa Streit from PragerU was in the IDF. It's a stupid theory. But people are allowed to have stupid theories. And I said it, I was like, not the Epstein effect, the Streisand effect. The Epstein effect's a little different. The Streisand effect is what it is. You put more attention on this. Nick Fuentes did not become mainstream because of what he said. He became mainstream now because of the attacks on him from the
100%.
mainstream.
Nick Fuentes became part of the conversation the same way that weed got legalized, which is when a bunch of really annoying, persistent people demand something for a very long time. Eventually, it's going to happen just because you wear them down. Anytime Valuetainment would put out a thing like, hey, who do you want to see on one of our podcasts? A couple good suggestions, and then 8,000 Nick Fuentes. And eventually, fine. We had Nick Fuentes.
No, but it's when someone becomes a big enough target, for lack of a better word, to be demonized by the mainstream media. People are like, okay, well, what does he have to say? So congrats, they made Fuentes mainstream.
You're right on the money. I didn't know this was happening. I didn't know this was a theory. I didn't know any of the guys involved. But now that they brought it up, I made a huge deal. I still think it's stupid. It's a stupid theory.
But we think it. But a lot of people, because there's people online every single time there's something that gets censored or attacked, I see the same comments. If they're trying to cover it up, it must be true. Mm-hmm. That is the mindset of a huge percentage. Because the trust you're talking the Canadian government has, the Canadian population has in its government.
Exact opposite here.
Yes. So there's a huge segment of our population who now distrusts everything mainstream.
You know what would have been enough for Kash to make a quick comment on it? He's like, hey, this is a ridiculous theory that's going around. We won't entertain it. Thank you very much for coming. And that's it.
And by the way, thank you for the compliment to suggest that my girlfriend is so hot that she must be an Israeli honeypot. But then, did you know that she's getting Secret Service protection even though she's not a wife or a spouse? Now we do.
This is why it's really kind of insane that we have government officials who have girlfriends. But I get, they're in relationships and everything, but for your relationship drama with someone who is not even your spouse to play out on this national of a scale where now government funds and government lawyers are being used to try to push defamation cases against people who just have stupid opinions. Well, I've now spent more time than I ever cared to, not only listening to Alexis Wilkins' music, which really is not even...
It's not bad.
It's not. Yeah, but it's not bad. But it's not great.
It's a guerrilla marketing campaign for her country music.
Patel puts out a statement that says she's a country music superstar and an American patriot who's done more in 10 years for this country than you'll ever do in a lifetime. It's like, well, I've never heard any of her music. I listened to country music. Never heard of Alexis Wilkins until this.
Look, I'm convinced. I'm convinced she's a nice person. She is smart. Her politics are I say based.
Sound.
Yeah, they're sound. I don't think she's the driving force of this, and I think she's going to realize this was a bad idea. And whoever had the idea for this, if they thought it was going to intimidate people into silence, I don't know if you saw the Elijah Schaffer defamation case. He didn't even say anything other than in response to a tweet about how Israel uses honeypots to infiltrate Iran and intelligence. He quote tweeted and put a picture of Kash Patel and Alexis Wilkins. It could have been a freaking joke for all anybody knows, and now people are going to take that joke a whole lot
They're trying to
seriously.
run with the defamation by implication thing, but Viva, as you can attest, the standards for a defamation, it has to be false. They have to know it was false and say it anyway, and there has to be material harm caused by the statement.
Defamation cases are hard.
No, and also like the implication is typically like, I'm not saying he committed fraud, but wink, wink, nudge, nudge. I'm implying strongly he did. This could have been a freaking joke, and now it's become a trope on the internet. Like you have the memes now of Winnie the Pooh, that song "Honey, Honey, Honey."
Yeah.
There are some hilarious versions about it, poking fun at Cash and.
Now, from a morals and values, not a legal standard, like I think, and being a gentleman, I think it's very uncouthful to bring a spouse or a girlfriend into the conversation. Like I don't like when they do it. If you're gonna attack Kash Patel, just attack Kash
No,
Patel.
but big caveat. She's a prominent.
Anyone who's a public figure is sadly fair game. I have a big problem with going after someone's kids. Like when you start posting about
Yeah.
But
The Attorney General of Virginia saying that he,
and
when his opponent's kids die.
And
That's
even though
insane.
we're in the middle of the story, I'm still rooting for Cash. I want him to do a good job. You know what I mean?
Yeah, but at some point, first of all, I'm still rooting for this administration. That sometimes means cutting the weak ends here because Cash has made a number of unforced errors in a number of prominent cases, not the least of which is the Charlie Kirk assassination. He's done himself no favors with some of his other behavior, some of his other extracurricular behavior, and they haven't provided answers to some of the most promised questions. Butler, Pennsylvania answers, January 6th pipe bomb answers, and to sit there and threaten lawsuits. They're not threatening lawsuits against Steve Baker, but I'm sure he's going to get sued. And to not answer the questions when there's been revelations, it causes people to lose trust in the people that we've had faith in. Like nobody went to Kash Patel and thought that he was going to be
immediately cause people to lose trust. That's something I've noticed. It automatically empowers the opposite side of whatever argument.
And saying it's not Cash that's doing it, but it's his own personal attorney who's drafting it for Alexis Wilkins is a cop-out of a discrediting excuse for it. Oh, not me, it's just my lawyer and I'm doing it for my girlfriend. Bullshit. I mean, that's the 6 of one, half a dozen of the other.
Exactly.
Man, I'm gonna get slaughtered in the chat. But can we set like I mean the ideal that we have for the current FBI is up here. What they were before, like what
sure.
You know what I mean? Like you guys don't remember what the FBI acted like before the new administration got in. Like I think it's at least 50% better, 70% better than what they were. Like remember when this originally happened? Like the information that we got from the Biden administration. At least they might not get everything right, but they're still opening up things and talking about things. You know what I mean?
That's very big loser talk. Not to hold them to an impossible standard. My operating theory is that there's only so much of a radical change two individuals can do when 2/3 of the FBI as an institution are corrupt to the core. And I don't think Dan Bongino had, I think he's been skeptical of the rank and file of the cops who do the work, or the FBI agents who do the work. The fact that they don't think it needs a massive overhaul and a purging, like Harmeet Dillon purged in her civil rights division, like RFK's purging in the DHS division, it needs a purge. The fact that they still have faith in some of the very same actors who they've given raises to in some cases. So they haven't made the radical change that is needed for the FBI to regain credibility. And it's only getting worse.
And speaking of those FBI employees, here's what Kash Patel tweeted in his own defense and defense of the FBI regarding the Thomas Crooks investigation. Over 480 FBI employees were involved in the Thomas Crooks investigation. Employees conducted over 1,000 interviews, addressed over 2,000 public tips, analyzed data extracted from 13 seized digital devices, reviewed nearly 500,000 digital files, collected, processed, and yada yada. He goes on and on and on.
It's called your
talk
job.
About how much they're doing. And you know what? To their credit, maybe they are. But the fact that most people did not know some of the things that Tucker Carlson and Miranda Devine revealed in their independent investigations shows that the FBI is certainly not living up to its promise of being the most transparent administration we've ever had. Because here's some of the newly surfaced material, which allegedly includes 17 online accounts across platforms such as YouTube, Snapchat, Discord, Venmo, Zelle, DeviantArt, which I'll get back to in a second, and then weird ones like Quizlet, Chess.com, and Quora, along with email addresses linked to encrypted services.
He was on chess.com.
Yeah.
It's good to play chess.
DeviantArt's a cool website.
According to the reporting, Crooks left 737 public YouTube comments between 2019 and 2020, documenting a dramatic ideological shift, beginning as a fervent pro-Trump extremist who called for violence against Democrats, then flipping in early 2020 to anti-Trump rhetoric, criticizing the pandemic, embracing harsh lockdowns, and describing Trump supporters as a cult. I actually pulled a selection of those that we can read. In 2019... For example, he wrote, Ilhan Omar and other invaders should honestly be killed and their dead bodies sent back.
How does that not warrant an immediate FBI investigation at the time?
He wrote in 2018, if you're saying Trump is a bad president, you aren't a patriot. Trump is the literal definition of patriotism. 7 hours after that, he wrote, I hope a quick and painful death to all the deplorable immigrants and anti-Trump congresswomen who don't deserve anything this country has given them. Later on, he wrote,
a quick and painful?
Yeah.
Those are almost
every one of the Trump-hating Democrats deserves to have their heads chopped off and put on stakes for the world to see what happens when you F with America.
If there's an argument for red flag laws, I mean, that not to take the guns away, but to go visit the kid. Did they visit him? Was he known to FBI?
Yeah. And
but how many tweets and posts and things like this is the FBI actively investigating at all times and trying to monitor?
True, but I do wonder whether or not he even got punished on YouTube or sanctioned on YouTube.
You would hope.
But just to come back to something so people don't think I'm a total asshole, it's their job. Owen Schroyer a while back put out a video and it's like, okay, this taking victory laps on social media for doing what it is that you were hired to do at some point comes to an end and does not ratify or excuse
if you're inept,
elements.
If you're inept, yes.
So they call it, it's good. Like that's what the FBI. You have a lot of leads. Now the question is this: why hasn't this been disclosed to the public? And if this was known to the FBI at the time, my question is still going to be: was this kid radicalized himself? Coincidental timing or not? According to the evidence in the Charlie Kirk assassination, what's his face? Robinson was radicalized about a year ago, right about the time this kid did the exact same thing that Robinson did. And so I wonder, is there an MK Ultra element to this? Was this guy being used or manipulated to start some sort of acts of violence so that the FBI at the time could come in and say, look how radical these people are?
I think the evidence is there if you know where to look, because as with all these other school shooters and high-profile assassins, they're all plugged into the same Discord chats.
Yeah,
they all use the same social media. It all happens in these online chat rooms where they get in contact with people from fringe ideologies, everything from transgenderism to Nazism. It's this
full spectrum.
It's this full spectrum, but it's also this weird amalgamation of every radical fringe ideology you can think of, where it all comes together to make people lose their minds. It's almost like it's a perfectly curated internet echo chamber to plug people into and make them lose their minds by constantly being inundated with every ideology under the sun. Because in 2020, Crooks shifted over to writing things like, Trump is radical, Trump is stupid. He mocked the idea of the deep state, saying the deep state is simply made up of anybody who disagrees with the right wing. Conversation over. He called Trump supporters brainwashed cultists.
That's such a deep state thing to say.
He embraced lockdowns. He even, ironically, blasted Tucker Carlson for implying that going to Chinese heritage parades could infect you with COVID. And he tried to call Tucker a racist. He wrote all sorts of manifestos and comments and everything. And neither his right-wing nor his left-wing comments ever seemed to set off any of those monitoring systems that tell us we have.
Or they did.
Or it was exactly...
Well, there is a... Sorry, go ahead.
No. I think this is a sign of the internet. Like back in my day, I was always...
Back in my day,
like when the internet fell alive, because now the internet is dead. We can get into a theory later. You will find fringe ideas around the normal web, but not radical extreme ideas. You will really have to go out of your way and go to like a white national socialist forum, like a black communist, this and that, a Chinese Mao support group. Like you really need to go out of your way, like a furry website. Like you really need to search a community to find it. And since social media platforms, they drove anything French, not even bad, anything French, they drove it out of the mainline platforms, is going underground into places like Discord that they're like private and open at the same time, and things just get worse and worse and worse. I have you guys been to DeviantArt?
No, I used to. DeviantArt used to be like a legitimate art website.
It used to be.
That's when I used it like back in the day.
The deviant in the title is a little misleading because it's not meant for primarily disgusting pornographic
I remember
stuff.
when it was like DeviantArt.
That's when I know it.
Yeah,
It just sort of became that.
I didn't even know that. It
Probably
became that.
10 years ago.
It's like an open art platform. I mean, you as former users would know it better than I would because I've never used it because I only know it as a place people go to post like disgusting.
Have you looked on it on your computer?
No.
I'm not even doing it on my phone.
But I mean, you still need to dig a little bit and inside the website to get to the.
It's sort of like how on X you can basically access hardcore pornography anytime you want if you know how to search for more than just like one thing.
I discovered that after an episode of Howard Stern where they were talking about a particular sex festival within a certain community and involving certain hand parts, and I was like, oh my God. And I went to this guy's hand, I was like, that's on Twitter.
Yeah, Twitter has a lot of weird stuff. But there's a bigger problem here. Everything points, and we kind of touched on it last time I was on the show, about like there's a deep issue with nihilism in society. So you have a bunch of young men who are nihilistic. They have no identity. Because you could see his identity switched 10 times in 2 years. Like he would jump onto whatever was giving him value at the time. So if you take a bunch of young men who are full of testosterone, who are being ostracized also, there was a lot of identity politics being played at the time and still being played today, and you put them in a situation where they can go online and they can say, now I matter, now I'm important, this is where my value's coming from. That's why I always talk about God. That's how you save these people. They're going to end up just getting sucked in. There's a huge percentage of our population that is now ready to be indoctrinated by, and it doesn't matter which direction you take them in. It doesn't matter if it's the Nazi direction or if it's the furry
he
direction.
says gesturing at me.
No.
Or the furry.
the Nazi direction, the furry direction, the transfer.
And the bestiality. You're right. And my thought immediately goes to, if you wanted to have Trump assassinated at the time from a deep state that wanted him dead after they failed to jail him, failed to bankrupt him, and he was leading and looking like he was going to get elected, you infiltrate these deranged Discord chats or whatever the hell it is, and you say, and you find the guys who you know are mentally unstable already. You encourage it, you facilitate it, and then you track them. You know where they are. You don't have to push them anywhere. They're going to go, and you make sure that the opportunity is there, that security doesn't stop the guy of a person of interest who had a rangefinder for an hour before, that you let Trump take the stage, even though the person of interest has now disappeared into the crowd with a Pac-Man perimeter of a roof that's not covered. And
there's only 2 roofs, by the way. 2 roofs, one with a larger slope than the roof they claimed had too high as slope.
And then, there's also that water tower in the background that no one's ever really been able to explain. But
I haven't adhered to the second shooter theory.
There's some weird stuff back there. The thing that has always led me to believe that it was Thomas Matthew Crooks on the roof shooting at Trump was that he missed. If it was some trained Fed guy and he was just up there as a patsy, like they wouldn't have missed. They wouldn't have gone for a headshot. And before you try to come at me and say, oh, the whole thing was fake, it was teleprompter glass, explain that to Corey Comfortor's family.
No,
there
was a real bullet, but then he pulled a WWE thing where he cut his own ear.
It's insanity.
But come on, let's. I mean, I don't know if this is. Look, if I was heading the FBI, anyone that is into like gay Nazi wolves goes on the list. I'm sorry. Like, no question asked.
I'm not disagreeing with gay Nazi wolves going on a list.
Like, anyone that is into gay Nazi wolves goes on the list immediately.
And like, look, I'm not in favor generally of government lists of citizens. But like, don't make a list of anyone who's like looking at Nazi content, even though it's a little bit concerning. Don't look at anybody who's just looking at wolves or just looking at gay stuff, even though all of those are gross.
But when you
check 3 or more boxes,
and you combine the boxes.
Gay wolves, not so bad. Nazi wolves, kind of a cool cartoon.
But gay Nazi wolves,
you're on a list. Congrats.
You ain't flying anywhere.
Who hasn't ended up on the Nazi wolf propaganda site by accident?
You're getting raided, guy. You're getting raided. That's it.
Considering that the Biden FBI used to do 3 a.m. raids on pro-lifers who would protest outside abortion
the
clinics.
stuff that happened with the pro-life community is bonkers. They would legit send SWAT to pastors' homes.
They wanted people to get killed based on an overreaction
so
to an unsuspecting
I
SWAT.
agree with what Humberto said earlier about, like, look, I get it's better than where we came from, but it's the same thing of just because it's better for the country that Trump won than Kamala Harris, that doesn't mean Trump is doing everything he should be doing or that he's doing a great job of the things he is doing. So
it's not a pass for what is abject, apparent incompetence on certain issues. And you go back to the Crooks and everything we know that the guy was training at ranges that had feds and local law enforcement. The kid looks, I mean, I'm not to judge the way people look. He looks a little off. And if I see a kid like that on holidays where you're supposed to be at home with family or friends shooting at a range, you got to wonder, did they have him on a radar beforehand? Was he used? And did they facilitate it so that Trump gets whacked going into the election? And I know what I believe.
It's not far-fetched. If you look at just, again, all the things the government has done to try and prevent Trump from very public things to very, again, the FISA stuff, the Steele dossier, they were willing to do anything. So if they're willing to violate literally anything, I'm not exaggerating. So for me, is it a big jump that they would spy on him from spying on American citizens, taking the full use of the government to try and vilify Trump in every physical way, trying to arrest Trump, trying to ruin his life, to the next step of, hey, there's this huge group of people online who are nihilistic, they have no identity, and with a little bit of a push, they'll end up doing exactly what we want them to do. That's not a crazy concept.
No, but then the question is going to be, why would this FBI not want to blow the lid off that FBI's corruption? And then the question has to be like, there's only two reasons why they wouldn't if it's true. Like, if this is true of the former FBI, this one would say, like, look how corrupt they were. And there's only two reasons why they couldn't do it, is if it would expose what would be nationally destabilizing for faith in government.
Yes.
Or if they've actually continued to employ some of these players unwittingly, or brought them over to the CIA, or given them raises, and it would show the abject incompetence of this FBI. So there's no good reason, if it's true, and we can suspect it is, you have to think of why this FBI would not want to disclose it, and why they would create an FBI rapid response to create what is ostensibly an incorrect and misleading statement about Tucker Carlson, which was a statement that Dan Bongino at the time himself affirmed. So,
and there's also the fact that, like we were talking about, on DeviantArt, all of the accounts that were found linked to Thomas Matthew Crooks had they/them pronouns and furry fetish content on there. And that is of material relevance to this case, in the same way that they suppressed the manifesto of the Covenant school shooter in Nashville.
We're still waiting.
Well, we've gotten drips and drabs of it over the years. Every single bit of it affirming the fact that this was a delusional transgender person who hated white people, hated Christians, and wanted to kill their children to make them suffer because she hated herself. Or
Jay Jones has to love that.
Yeah,
and only when they feel the pain will they decide to shift their their gun perspective and their trans perspective.
Or the Annunciation Catholic school shooting just earlier this year.
Yeah.
Another transgender shooter who had the same kind of manifesto, wrote extensively about his hatred of Christians, his hatred of life, drew pictures of himself talking to demons in the mirror and saying that the voice he heard coming out of himself wasn't his voice anymore. All of this is relevant. It makes perfect sense why people who are brainwashed into these delusional sexual fetish gender ideologies go on to do this kind, because they go hand in hand.
Well, yeah, I think they're both symptoms of each other. I don't think it's necessarily that one cause.
It's just another pipeline. Like
Yeah.
the extreme categories of porn, the extreme gender ideologies, the fringe political ideologies, they all converge. They all lead to the same thing. And that's why we keep getting these incidents.
All right, let's break this down further. Tucker Carlson, he does these claims, he posts this. I would like to live in a timeline where the FBI goes like, wow, that's incredible work, Tucker. We're going to look into it. Congratulations for you doing your citizen journalism. That's a timeline that I thought I was going to live in.
Yep.
That's a timeline that but do you think his latest, I don't know, he's been adversarial to the mainline government, you think that has something to do with them discrediting this investigation?
It certainly doesn't help.
Would just look inept also if the FBI came out and said, hey, we just didn't know.
But I think there's a step above.
Sorry, go for it.
No. Yeah, but you know what I'm
Well, no, for sure. Like, and I say, like, for a PR, I don't think they could afford me. But yeah, the proper response would be, these are very troubling allegations. We will look into it. Thank you very much, Tucker. We'd like to work with you. Much like with Steve Baker. and the January 6th. These are very serious allegations. We will work hand in hand with you, not to, in Tucker's case, try to debunk it with bull crap and make him look like a liar when he's not. And in the Jan 6 case, not to say nothing for the pipe bomber and Steve Baker's breaking journalism. And or if they have investigated that woman that he alleges is the pipe bomber and subsequently exonerated her, confirm it. I mean,
She's been exonerated?
well, from what I understand, and if the reporting is accurate, they what is it? They cleared her 2 weeks into, like, by January 21st, and then she went to work for the CIA.
Boy.
Which makes no sense unless it makes sense. And if you wanted to disappear someone from social media footprint presence, you take them from the FBI, you ship them to the CIA, the CIA scrubs your internet presence, and it becomes even more difficult for the aggregate knowledge of the interwebs to investigate the potential link.
I think all of us were delusional conspiracy theorists for saying there were federal operatives on the ground at January 6th. And then, sure enough, years later, multiple disclosures. There was like 270 something of those guys.
Oh, they were
mixed in
just
with the crowd.
there.
They were just.
They were called in at the last minute to keep the peace.
I don't know how people could see the videos that Tucker released about Jan 6 and not say something weird was going on. Like, there's millions of people who saw those videos, like the handshakes, doors opening, and they still tell me no, it was the most violent. It was.
It was violent. The alleged Jan 6 pipe bomber is the one who was sitting there firing rubber bullets at people's faces and upper torsos to try to provoke a violent response from the crowd. It is the bottom line. Also, like Tucker's recent expose, I'm seeing new video of Thomas Crooks that I was told didn't exist. That requires an explanation, not attacking the messenger.
Yeah. And speaking of those odd connections, let's look at one more thing before we wrap on this segment. This was from Miranda Devine's reporting with the New York Post. Among the 17 accounts uncovered by our source, only one on PayPal was operated under an alias, Rod Swanson. Rod Swanson is a former senior FBI agent who was the chief of investigations for the state of Nevada during the 2017 Las Vegas mass shooting. He also previously served on FBI Director Robert Mueller's protective detail and as a firearms instructor in Pennsylvania. Contacted by phone over the weekend, Swanson said he was surprised his name was connected to Crooks. Quote, "I don't know anything about that kid or his family." He said, "I don't even use PayPal. I don't even know how to set up a PayPal account." He said he retired from the FBI in Vegas in 2016 and went to work for the Nevada Attorney General from September 2015 to March 2020. He now works in the oil and gas business in Houston. And it goes on to say, this might be like a weird inside joke with Crooks by himself because he extensively researched other mass shootings and he might have stumbled upon Rod Swanson, maybe the association of Ron Swanson from Parks and Rec. He thought it was funny.
That's what I thought.
He might have done that name. According to Rod Swanson, he has no idea why Thomas Matthew Crooks' PayPal account was under his name. But that's a little weird.
It's a little weird.
It could be an FBI firearms instructor who investigated the 2017 Las Vegas shooting.
It's also
strange.
like what's the word? It's pretty esoteric. Also, like unless you that requires a high degree of like material. Like I'm thinking if I were going to go with somebody's name to make it, if my inside joke, who's the guy that broke the CIA crack dealings? Webb.
Yeah.
I mean, I'd go with an iconic name. Not who the hell knows who this guy is. That's weird.
And you know what caught me the most off guard? I don't know anything about that kid. I don't use PayPal. I don't know how to set up a PayPal account.
That's pretty retarded.
Like, that's just an overreaction right there. Anyone can set up a PayPal account.
What is that?
How does one do this? How does one put in an email?
This is sorcery.
If you can change money on the internet, who was in charge of investigating the Las Vegas shooting, doesn't know how to set up a PayPal account, that might explain why it's up to podcasters like us to try to figure out what happened.
Well, I've heard of that.
Go watch our video from last month on the Las Vegas shooting. Really good episode. We're proud
next
of
week
that
you're going to see like Rod Swanson on the internet, like, oh my goodness, I've just sent money to another person.
I had no idea this was possible.
For me, it was the first part. Like,
Why is he British?
I don't know. I'm just going with Stewie for some reason. It was the first part. Like, I don't know anything about the kid. We all know something about the kid. If this guy was in FBI, also, like the fact that he's in law enforcement, I presume is interested in these, assassination attempt stories.
But look at this quote down at the bottom. I want to get to that as well. Quoting again from Swanson, "No matter how ridiculous the allegation, no matter if it's COVID or not, somebody is going to knock on somebody's door," Swanson said. "If they investigated that kid, there's a record of it. And if there's an assessment that some leader made that this was not a threat or it rose to a level and they did something else." He also said that, quote, "If the FBI had that information about his name on the PayPal account, I can't even imagine that they would not have reached out to me right away." So even the guy who's implicated in it is saying, like, if the FBI was aware of this guy, there's a record. Why is there no record? Also, why did nobody reach out to me when they found my name on his account?
That's interesting. That's almost not throwing the FBI under the bus. He's saying I was not investigated, and I presume I would have been had they known that his name was on using my name for a thing. That's but that's a lot of
semi-throwing the FBI under the bus. Again, it comes back to either they're inept or something,
or they were hiding something,
So I had on Kyle Seraphin, who's one of the former FBI whistleblower, alleged whistleblower. Some people say, well, what did he blow the whistle on? But he's a whistleblower, and he was saying that his number one red flag is this woman goes from FBI or Capitol Police to CIA. Right around the same time that she was allegedly investigated, and she happened to be living the literal next door to the guy that he was placed on detail to go and what's it called when they do the stakeout? Literally next door, because it was a subway pass that was being used to identify the house to surveil, and this woman lived literally next door to that guy. Astronomically low probability of that happening coincidentally.
What are the odds?
I mean, before we close, it's not all of them. Like some of the FBI, they're like God-fearing Americans.
100%.
They keep everyone safer. They do investigations. It's still a law enforcement agency. Like
technically, it should not be law enforcement agency. You got state law enforcement agency. It's a federal creation.
It's a federal bureau. But there's some of them that do incredible work. They have a family. They go to work every day, and we only hear the bad things about them. Right? Every time they mess up or they miss something, that's when we talk about them. Because that's how it's supposed to be. It's like being a golly,
Because the violation of civil rights in our country is inexcusable when it comes from government power. So
it is inexcusable.
So you're gonna, no matter how good they are, it's the same reason you see overreactions when there's something tragic that happens with the police. So you're right. You don't want to vilify the entire FBI, but there are systemic issues within the FBI right now. And again, I'm still stuck on the recent stuff with Tulsi and all that. But the very fact, like FBI agents were signing off emails knowing that the information to get warrants from FISA courts, which should protect your rights more than anyone, they were abusing that to spy on people, to arrest them, to try and stop the incoming president. Like, really think about that.
Kevin Kleinsmith lied, falsified evidence that was this is the FBI's attorney. And if you think the FBI's attorney is literally falsifying evidence saying that Carter Page was not an asset when he was a known asset, submitting it to a FISA court, and he gets not even a slap on the wrist. He gets like a back massage practically. There are systemic institutional problems, and yet we're not for non-political investigations. They're good. When you are dealing with an entity that has 30-some-odd thousand employees, and you can say 10,000 of them are rabidly anti-Trump, who weaponize their access to power and monopoly of violence and investigative measures to persecute their citizens in the name of their political ideology, they may be good people in there. The entire institution needs to be disbanded. It's unnecessary, and it serves no purpose that state law enforcement does not serve.
So if you like this clip, click right here. And if you want to see more like it, click right here. Stay angry, Patriots.